2, 1, go.
Hello, I am Trip Sherwood, and
Will Jameson.
there
Sorry.
you go. There you go. You got it. So today, last time we covered New England, the states of Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. Now we're covering, I suppose, what we call the Upper Atlantic, not exactly New England and not exactly the Mid-Atlantic. So we are covering New York, Pennsylvania, New Jersey. Though I know Pennsylvania is not on the Atlantic, the Chesapeake Bay.
Pennsylvania has Pennsylvania has a little coast, doesn't it? I'm pretty sure Pennsylvania has a little, very, very itsy bitsy coast on the. Am I wrong? I didn't even check this because I just always assumed that it had an itsy bitsy tiny coast on next to a. Huh. Let me see. No, it has this very, very tiny coast between Delaware and. Sorry, I'm looking up the specifics of the border between Pennsylvania and Delaware.
Though actually Delaware was part of Pennsylvania until I'll look that up, and they left for some reason.
It has a very large river that connects it to the. I don't know. It's a very tight fit, but it doesn't have a river that basically connects it directly to. I'm loud.
Mm-hmm. I'll use Wikipedia for this because it is easy and accessible information. And though Wikipedia is not necessarily a purely academic source, it's good for quick data, I'd say.
Sorry for the slight break in the recording there. Just fixing a little tiny audio issue. Just had to fix that roughly. Yeah, but I think no, but it joined a little bit after the revolution, it joined as its own separate state a little bit after the revolution, if I'm right, like 1786, I want to say. If I'm getting my number right.
Delaware Colony, according to first thing on Google, Delaware Colony became a region of the province of Pennsylvania, although never legally a separate colony from 1682 until 1776. It was part of the Penn proprietorship known as the Lower Counties. And so going back into our main topic, Pennsylvania is named after William Penn, a Quaker immigrant who, unlike many other settlers at the time, actually fought land from the Native Americans instead of kicking them off or shooting them.
It was kind of the general trend for most, is either kick them off or shoot them. Very much. I got the actual date here. Delaware founded 1787. I was 1 year off. I just misread the year slightly.
Well, that's its foundation of the state, which it was the first state.
Yeah.
But Delaware, I suppose, is the topic of today. That's for later.
We should just do an entire thing about Delaware. I'm just gonna read the Delaware Wikipedia page.
There's nothing in Delaware.
There's things in Delaware. For instance, there's a capital in Delaware, and its name is Dover. Really, like Dover from England. So it's a funny thing.
Anyone from Baltimore to, I don't know, Washington, maybe even Philly, goes down to Rehoboth. I never go.
It's always interesting, I find, looking at what's it called, the names of eastern cities, especially in this, let's call it Northern Atlantic region, because a lot of them are very, very English. Like New York, literally a province in England is called York. Dover, another province in England, is the capital of Delaware. Pennsylvania, that's just William Penn. Philadelphia, I don't know if I don't know if Philadelphia's etymological history.
I think it's Greek or
that would make
something
sense
along those lines, because I believe there was also a Philadelphia in Asia Minor, which for those uninitiated, you swine, it is
Jesus, going straight to swine. That's a bit rude.
I am a classist. I am of the highest order.
You're a Virginian. You're not of the highest order. What are you talking about?
I am about as Virginian as I don't know, Lindsey Graham. I'm from Northern Virginia.
Lindsey Graham is from Virginia, isn't he? Yeah, it is. It's just really quickly, I'll put in here. Philadelphia, it's from Greek. It means philos, meaning loving, and adelphos, meaning brother. So loving brother. That's why it's called the city of brotherly love.
But back to our story. So New Jersey kind of sucks. There's something interested in it, and I know some people from New Jersey. And if by chance you're listening, as we have argued before that one time, the Statue of Liberty is in fact not in New Jersey, but in New York.
No, it is legally part of New York.
The waters of New Jersey does not mean it is in New Jersey.
The island itself is part of New York.
So, argument over. It is. There's like some stuff. My dad met Cory Booker once. He was the mayor of Newark.
Yeah, I know. He's a senator now.
Mm-hmm. But other state, New York. It's a very interesting state, very large state. Oddly enough, although I like it. Upstate New York is very pretty. It's actually where Mormonism was founded.
Yeah, it was. It was founded in Albany, wasn't it? Or no, Buffalo.
And originally, New York City was a Dutch colony before it was purchased by the English.
New Amsterdam.
I love me some LaCroix.
Stop. That's French. La Croix is French. French don't say La Croix.
Well, Northwest New York has some French in it.
Yeah, some old Huguenot.
Because if you look at the map, it's right next to Quebec.
Also has one of the largest, formerly largest Native American nations in the Iroquois Confederacy, located in the Northern Territories, which, let's just call it, there's an interesting history between the Iroquois and the United States. Part of our Constitution is actually based off their legal code that they founded somewhere in the 1300s, if I'm remembering correctly. It's their society goes back many, many centuries.
It's very interesting. I've been in the area they used to, in some cases, do call home, as there are actually Native American reservations in New York.
Yep.
In upstate New York, you're not going to find one in the middle of the rocks.
Didn't you know that Didn't you know one of the famous boroughs of New York is just a Native American reservation?
Well, that's news to me.
It's Upper Hooternessy.
There are a fair amount of places in upstate New York named after Greek cities, such as Ithaca, New York, Syracuse, New York, Utica, New York, which.
And we have one named after an animal, buffalo.
There is Troy, which isn't necessarily Greek. It's I suppose Indo-European, Anatolian.
No, Troy can be considered Greek. It would be northern northern Greek satellite.
Taken over. Yeah. So you have Cicero, named after the great Roman orator, and then Rome, New York. So
There's a Rome, New York?
There's a Rome, New York.
That feels presumptuous.
I've been to Syracuse. I've been to Utica. Utica is not a very nice place, but if you're in Utica, I suggest going to the Phoenician. It's a Lebanese restaurant. It's really good.
Question. You could then say, if you go to New York, and you go to New York for like the weekend, say you're on the East Coast, and you're like, I'm going to pop to New York, you can then actually say, yeah, I went to Rome, and then not specify, and just start detailing this northern New Yorker city.
You could say that to a lot of places. You could say, oh, I went to Paris, but you went to Paris, Texas.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I feel like this is even better. Because it's like you went to New York. I don't know. I just like the idea of saying you went to Rome. I feel like you would say you went to Paris. But, like, if you're in Texas, no one's going to be like, oh, you went to actual Paris. No. If you go to, like, Rome, New York, I feel like that might sell for a couple of minutes. But before anyone notices. I don't know why. It just seems to ring for me.
So, Albany is the capital of New York, which may surprise many, as it is a somewhat small and inconceivable city, which is closest thing to it is Schenectady. Say that 5 times fast.
Schenectady.
Saratoga Springs, where some Revolutionary War battle happened. And above that is just wilderness. Just wilderness.
Just straight wilderness. 200 miles till you hit the Canadian border. There's no towns in northern New York. It's an actual fact right there. Totally fake. Absolutely not a real fact. But no, there's some running, not tension in New York, but it's called frustration in New York that most people from New York City proper, the New York metro area, don't acknowledge that there's anyone else in their state besides themselves. Uh, it's always a very funny. I once heard a joke from a New Yorker who quoted the line. He basically said, because northern New York feels so separate from New York City metro area, you can sometimes hear the joke in northern New York, like Viva Luno Amsterdam, because people in northern New York sometimes want to create a new state called New Amsterdam just so they can have their own kind of representation away from the larger New York.
The Finger Lakes in New York, which are large glacial lakes that are almost shaped like fingers, are a rather pretty and nice area. And they have fun names to them, like Canada.
Yeah, let me take my shot at the names of the Finger Lakes. This is something I specifically did not want to do before this podcast, but I'm gonna do it. Finger Lakes names. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna pull up the names. Kokuka. Oh God, I'm gonna get Cayuga. That one's Otisco, Canandaigua, Owasco, Canadis, Conessus, Shanatellis, Honoya, Seneca, probably named after Seneca Falls, Hemlock, Cazenovia, Oneida. Oneida is one of the Iroquois tribes, that's why it's named that. And so are the Seneca and so are the Cayuga. I don't know if I'm pronouncing those names right, so don't hold me to it. But a lot of those names are named after the Iroquois tribes that inhabited the region. Hello?
And I believe the Iroquois didn't speak in Algonquin, which may be wrong. But I remember looking at a map and seeing a rather large gap in the north.
I believe the Iroquois have their own distinct language.
Although, were the Mohawk people a part of the Iroquois Confederacy because they did speak an Algonquin language?
I believe the Mohawk. God, you're just making me I know they had some sort of relation. I believe in the later years of the Iroquois Confederacy, the Mohawk might have joined the Confederation, but I can't remember exactly, so don't hold me to that. I just can't remember off the tip of my tongue.
And that would be mostly the Mohawks were in eastern upstate New York.
Yeah.
But New York is somewhat home to Niagara Falls, and also another major city is, aside from New York City, Buffalo, New York, which I heard gets a lot of snow and it kind of sucks. You know, if anyone's from Buffalo, I don't know, try to debate me on that.
You do live on Lake Erie.
My opinion is somewhat invalid. But all their sports teams are Buffalo themed. Although the Buffalo Sabres, their hockey team. Good luck to you guys.
The Bills are not going to win. The Bills are not going to win. The Bills are just not going to win.
Yeah. The Sabres weren't supposed to be Buffalo themed, and then the owners gave into that. So have fun in Buffalo. My doctor's from Buffalo.
I would really love, how your doctor's from Buffalo, don't you? You're Northern Virginia. Why?
Yeah, I got tendonitis. Injured my ankle and I got tendonitis later. It's things happen, and that is first sign. You don't sit on my computer. I got an ankle brace on. And stuff happens.
Hey, my question is this: the Buffalo.
Sorry, I was enjoying my LaCroix.
Stop it.
No, I'm not going to stop. I enjoy it.
The Buffalo... Wait. So you know how the Buffalo Bills, obviously, the football team, the Buffalo Bills, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why didn't they just name themselves the Buffalo? I would have respected that so much. That would have been like the greatest move ever. Because I'm a 49ers fan myself, but if there was a team named the Buffalo, I would follow that team to the hells and back. Like, I would legit, would you not want to who wouldn't, get behind a team who would just had let's call it the balls to name themselves the Buffalo? It has a ring
Big
to
Sweet
it too.
Bear.
Doesn't it have a ring to it as well? It's like the Buffalo Buffalo.
Mm-hmm.
Get behind that. We should email. What's
So
their
Mike,
wait? Sorry. What's their team? The owner's name. We can shoot him an email saying, "Hey, do you want to update your team?"
oh, I don't know, but he also owns the Sabres. Apparently, he's kind of a stickly guy.
Terrence,
So
general manager. Terrence Pagula, maybe. Terrence, who holds business interested. Okay, so I think, yeah, he owns the Buffalo Sabres of the National Hockey League, and along with his wife Kim Pagula, the Buffalo Bills of the NFL. He is a real estate, gas development, entertainment, and professional sports kind of thing.
a fair amount of these guys, or a lot of very rich people, sort of break into industries you know of, but sort of companies you some cases never heard of, or sort of odd niche industries. Like Dan Snyder, owner of the Washington Redskins. Hashtag HTTR. Let's do it this year, boys. He was I think, what was it? Like some sort of travel center or something. One of those call in, make travel reservations. I think that business is dead, but he latched on to the Redskins and is riding that. But we'll get to the I suppose DC area, Virginia, maybe West Virginia. You want to do something on Appalachia?
I mean, we could do. It's an interesting region. Tune in 2 weeks when we cover Appalachia for the.
We don't know when this is airing. We were gonna record this last week, but I was having dinner with family, and I suppose you were too.
Yeah, well, I was basically panicking through the. I had like 15 different things to do last weekend, and like all of them were not expected. So it was just a time. It was a time, my friend. It was like there was like each of the things I did was very enjoyable, but each of the things I did also was unexpected, and I didn't know that it was happening. But it was more like, oh yeah, I'd totally be up for that when someone told me about it. So it was a journey. It was a journey. Uh, no, but getting back to our main point, Daniel Snyder is it's apparently a kind of communications investor, creator, that kind of person. That's what I found about him. And I do not want the Washington Redskins to win anything.
Well, why not?
I don't know. I just don't like the Redskins team.
Well, I disagree with that.
Why is that? Give me your reasons for why the Redskins are a good team.
Because they have the most Hall of Famers.
Do they really?
I'm from the area.
Yes, you
My family
are.
used to be season ticket holders, and I have a terrible towel from the Sean Taylor Memorial Game. R.I.P. Sean Taylor, one of the greatest players in the NFL this time, but he was cut down by a villain's bullet. I'll stick to that. Anyone with a Skins fan in this whole area, one of the saddest days. My God, horrible day, terrible day. And the whole name controversy is interesting, which there've been a ton of studies showing like contradictory information, which I suppose maybe we can get into with the previous thing I mentioned with the addition of Delaware. We'll throw that into sort of a Mid-Atlantic region. We may do some miles on the Carolinas and South and whatnot, but I noticed a lot of that name controversy came in 2013 when the Redskins drafted RG3 and looked very promising. Looked like they were going to do well. Getting big news, and suddenly, a lot of people are losing it and saying they got to change the name. So, it seems a lot of it's reactionary.
No, but that's not like reactionary in a bad way. That's just a team is now becoming into the limelight, and now something that's very obvious about them that's pretty. Can we at least both acknowledge that it's pretty questionable in its nature?
Yeah, it is questionable.
It's questionable. Like, we're not trying to pick a side here. We're just saying it's very questionable in its nature. I don't think it can be considered a reaction in a bad kind of reactionary. It's more like, okay, here's this team that was previously kind of unnoticed generally, and now it's getting some spotlight because it has a potential to do well. I think, here's the thing. I understand the perspective. They think they are representing Native American culture and they think they're honoring it, but frankly, they're not. I don't know. It's it just seems questionable to me. I'm trying not to get. I just already stated my opinion, so I'll go a little bit further than this. It just seems questionable to me the idea that you don't change your name to anything like anything even vaguely more not as that much leaning towards the spectrum because we have other teams in the NFL that are Native American based. We have the Chiefs. We have can't think of anyone else. Jaguars, but they're not really. It's more just an animal. So I'm saying like you could just turn it slightly that it's just it just seems weird that you would be so willing to stick to your guns on this issue. Do you know what I'm saying?
But I suppose that maybe for a different episode is, again, we're focused on a more...
Yeah, we're in the wrong space here. My bad.
We can get to the area where I live next episode. Whether that be in a week, 2 weeks, a month, 10 years,
We will get to it. We will get to every single state.
In on itself or rip itself apart or something.
It's
all in good faith.
Anyways, where were we? We should probably move on to Pennsylvania.
Well, there's still more New York.
Why don't we talk about the elephant in the room then? Why don't we talk about the elephant in the room? Because you haven't mentioned one specific area yet.
New York City.
There you are.
And Long Island. New York City, as I stated, was a Dutch colony until it was purchased by the English, and it grew and grew from there. And I believe it was a prominent slave market too. I learned that at the African American Museum. If you've not seen it, go to it. It's a wonderful museum. Highly recommended. But New York is made up of the Bronx, Manhattan, Kings, Queens, Nassau.
Wait, what? What did you just say? Kings, Queens. It's just Queens, New York. It's not King. Am I wrong?
Kings, New York. There's also Brooklyn.
There's Brooklyn. I don't know if there's Kings, New York.
There's Chelsea, New York. And you got other stuff. You got like Rikers Island. You got Staten Island, Governor's Island, Ellis Island.
Yeah, no, that's just called Brooklyn. There's no like Kings, New York. It's just Queens. I was just like, I've been to New York a good couple times. I was like, I've never been to Kings. Maybe wrong. Sorry, just didn't want to shoot you down. I'm like, do I just not know this? Queens, because that'll make way more sense why it's called Queens. No.
North of that, you have Yonkers.
You just wanted to say that. You just wanted to say that, didn't you?
Poughkeepsie. It's good. It's a fun name spelled.
You totally just wanted to say that name.
Poughkeepsie.
No, but I think it's fair.
If I want to say names, I would say Schenectady, a Sean Connery voice. Schenectady, New York. I did it. Round of applause for me.
Yeah, no, I'll give you. I'll send you a cookie in the mail. But would you say it's fair to say that New York is the cultural capital of at least the East Coast?
Yes, and probably more overall in some cases. The United States, although LA is without a doubt a close second.
Yeah, why I say the East Coast is because some would argue on the West Coast that LA holds more, LA and Portland and Seattle hold more sway, just because the whole idea comes in that in New York, the West Coast and the East Coast just have these different kind of cultural, let's call it just because of how they're like, just the things people associate here are just two entirely different subjects. It's just, I don't know if you can really say that New York is the cultural capital of the U.S. when you have a thing like L.A. on the western coast, which kind of holds almost the same cultural significance to that coast.
But I'd say New York has this. New York is like 5 hours from Boston. It's like 2 hours from Philly, 5-6 hours from D.C. depending on traffic. L.A. it's like a few hours from San Diego. And, it has some other cities around it, but nothing that large compared to something on the East Coast.
But I mean, L.A. also, you have to acknowledge that L.A. isn't just L.A., it's past it, because the Los Angeles Metro is, because New York, of course, has its boroughs, but L.A. also has its, L.A., it's a mega city. It's connected to Newport, it's connected to Pasadena, it's connected to Long Beach, it's connected to all those areas, and it's connected to San Bernardino. It's basically connected to it's always weird. I think, because I don't know how much time you spend in LA, for some people coming to LA and realizing that, oh, the city really doesn't stop at any point. Like, LA to Newport, it's basically continuous city. There's no, like, breaking point. And the only, like, boundaries are just what got drawn in the sand when they weren't all one big city.
But with the New York, I suppose, greater metro, it's not New York, but it's still close. Newark is a large city. But a lot of people also come into New York from the surrounding areas. A fair amount from the Panhandle of Connecticut, places above New York like Yonkers, Eastchester, White Plains, maybe some places like in other places northwest New Jersey, Long Island.
And I think the interesting thing is that New York holds more sway, I'd call it, over the East Coast than LA holds over the West Coast. Because Seattle and Portland still are fairly, let's call it, cultural heavy cities in their respective regions. Like, people in Oregon and Washington wouldn't head to LA if they want to hit a big city. They would head to Portland or Seattle. And so I think on the East Coast that's different. Like, if you want to hit a really, really big city, you could head to Boston or you could head to Philly. But New York is that kind of hub. Do you know what I'm saying?
Did you say Austin?
No, Boston.
Oh, sorry, I heard Boston.
And then Texas is its whole other issue. Texas is Texas.
Oh, yeah. Texas is, I have some friends in Texas. It is a strangely, extraordinarily large state.
Yep. Second highest in population, second highest in area.
But, so, New York City, I've spent some time here, mostly in Manhattan. The southwest tip of Manhattan is basically the financial capital of the United States. It's where the World Trade Center stands, and the two former WC7 had stood until the 9/11 attacks. Have you seen the 9/11 memorial?
I have. I've been there several times.
It's certainly an eye-opening place. It's as we all know, 9/11 was a terrorist attack where two planes were flown into the Twin Towers. One into the Pentagon in Arlington, Virginia, and one into a field in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, it was probably,
it is,
at least in the U.S. history, it's the most defining event in the 21st century. It is the 21st century for the U.S.
That's why there is a pre-9/11 and post-9/11 era.
Yeah, like you...
And we are living in the post.
Do you know what the specific time... Because the U.S. history can be split up into some broad factors. You can do kind of the interwar period, or basically what I'm just trying to highlight is you go Cold War, the end of the Cold War in 1991, and then we have 9/11 in 2001. Do you know what we call that inter-period? Is there any name for it?
The 90s, I guess.
Yeah, just the 90s. Because it's just...
A little extra on time. Yeah. That being 2000 and most of 2001.
Because that was kind of a time... It's always interesting to look at that time and just kind of see this... I wouldn't call this... That was really Pax Americana. Like, if there was ever a Pax Americana, which I think we're still kind of living in, and we've been living in for the last good while... That was it. Like, that was the high point of it. Because, like, that was the time when the U.S. really, really didn't have any major enemies that could threaten it in a serious way. And really wasn't questioning itself. And the economy was grandly expanding. And everything was fine and dandy. So I always find that time period interesting. Just kind of look at how people saw themselves during it. Do you get what I'm saying in that? Because it's... Go
ahead. All right. Yeah, but I would agree with you, but I suppose, more going back to New York itself. There are a ton of financial buildings. As I said, it's the financial capital of the United States. It has also been previously home to some of the tallest buildings in the world, such as the Empire State Building was at one point the tallest building in the world. I think maybe the Chrysler Building?
Yeah, the Chrysler Building was the tallest building.
The Woolworth building, although Woolworths, for those who don't know, it basically pioneered the department store chain. And, probably 20 years ago, finally went out of business. But actually still survives in an odd way today as Foot Locker.
Really?
As it created a shoe brand that became quite popular and I think was sold off somewhere.
Did you know that, no, because what's up with the Chrysler Building is the Chrysler Building was the tallest building, ever built for about a year, and then the Empire State Building was built, and then it was the tallest building. I don't know when do you know when the Twin Towers were built?
I think somewhere in the 70s. And actually, they were also the tallest buildings in the world for a little bit.
Yeah.
And now it is the Burj Khalifa in Abu Dhabi.
And we still do have one kind of claim to fame in New York in the fact that the Freedom Tower is the largest building in the Western Hemisphere.
And Ross from New York is Hoboken.
You're just enjoying saying all these names, aren't you? That's your entire goal here.
Wait till we get out west. You got a lot of fun names out there. Going a bit east of New York, we have Long Island, where the Great Gatsby took place.
Yes, the only thing
based off of
known to be the only thing of significance that has ever happened on Long Island. The Great Gatsby.
Petronius Satyricon, which is a raunchy, somewhat pornographic, somewhat homoerotic, somewhat violent, though I haven't read the whole thing, Latin comedy written during the reign of Nero. And the Great Gatsby was really called Trimalchio, which is one of the characters in the book.
Huh.
So, a little fun fact, but...
What are we talking about?
Well, I strayed off a little bit, but back to Long Island. One of the interesting places in Long Island is Levittown, which was one of the first suburban, as we know it, places in America.
Mm-hmm.
And it was built by, I think I'm forgetting his name. Well, I think he named the town after himself.
I know who you're talking about. His name is it's something Levitt. I'll look it up.
He was part of the Seabees in World War II, which are a group of naval engineers, but he had planned this whole area and it was constructed.
William Levitt.
Before that, it was potato farms and multiple of these Levittown type areas, which are basically suburbs. They're modern suburbs.
Yeah, they're the start of suburbia in the U.S.
Were built across many places in the country, though there were some requirements to them, i.e., they didn't allow black people to move in, and you had to be clean shaven and tidy.
You want to hear something interesting?
So there certainly was some segregation within these communities.
Do you want to hear something interesting? There's been this there's been this interesting thing in the U.S. where there's been a constant rise and fall of whether beards are popular in the U.S. And it's like, what would you say right now? Do you think beards are popular or unpopular? I'm going to look it up right now. I want to see if beards are trending popular.
While he's looking that up, I myself do have facial hair.
He has a very... Okay, so here, let me get a little bit of story time in here, just really quickly. Tripp, the first time I ever saw him was a picture of him. And he had this luxurious beard that went all the way down below his, upper chest. And it was, amazing, and it looked glorious. And I was like, I'm finally meeting a person who has this type of beard. And then he showed up, and he had no beard. And it made me so angry. Because I was like, I just wanted to meet someone who's like this. Who actually has this glorious of a beard.
Greatest exaggeration I've heard in my life. So, we, as some of you listening may know, Will and I met in Nepal on a Where There Be Dragons course. For those who do not know what it is, I check out the website. There's a ton of interesting courses you can take across the world.
Go to Guatemala.
On my photo, you submit a photo of yourself to the yak board, as they call it, which is you post stuff to it. Pleased to say, it was me in Newport, Rhode Island. Although that's not necessarily important to the photo itself. and with my beard, although it didn't go down to my chest by any means. It was kind of bushy around my face, and it was on my face. If I were to stand totally straight up, with my beard out, and draw a line to where it would hit elsewhere in my body, it would hit probably somewhere in my neck.
No, he's lying. He's absolutely lying.
But if you want to talk about anything, I had hair down to my shoulders to that.
Wait, what? No, you got a buzz cut. Because also in Nepal, Trip got a mohawk, which was a thing, which was really surprising because he said he would do it. And then we were all walking through the ancient city of Bhaktapur one day, and we were kind of set off our own to do whatever we wanted. And Trip had said when we were back at the homestay house we were staying in, I'm gonna go and get a mohawk. And I kind of was like, okay, yeah, sure, he might do it, but like he probably won't.
I thought about it before the trip.
And you want to know what? It was really strange walking past Trip in the middle of the city and just passing by him and seeing that he had a mohawk. And that was a surprising moment because I was like, the madman did it. The madman actually got a mohawk in Nepal. Did you ever get did you ever do that did they give you like the full face massage thing when you did the haircut?
I did not. This was like a hole in the wall barbershop with two chairs, a mirror on each side so you could see your front and your back. And it cost 200 rupees. $2.
Yeah, it was divisible by 100. Was the division 100? Yeah, the division was 100. But the thing was, I now understand why people liked barbers. Because when I was in Nepal, when I got one of those haircuts, he gave me a completely clean shave using shaving cream, and like a blade. And I was like, I feel like my face is smooth for the first time since I've been 10. And it was like a weird feeling because I was so smooth, and I've never felt that since then. It's strange to get that close of a shave. I don't understand. And then he slicked my hair back and he did a bunch of fancy things. That was a time. That was a time in Nepal.
Right. So, New York, also, interestingly enough, has basically 2 sports teams for every league. I'm not going to cover all the leagues because you got like minor league stuff and sports people don't really care about, but I'll go over the main ones. I'll do that for doing one, but I'll do it here. For football, you have the Giants, which I suppose represent more, I want to say more kind of central New York, while the Jets represent more kind of the outer bits, but that's speculation on my part. They both play in the same stadium in New Jersey, the Meadowlands. Both teams kind of suck right now.
The Jets and the Giants?
Baseball, you have the Yankees, very classic, of course. Also the Mets, but for a while you had even more baseball teams in New York. You had, I think, at the same time, you had the Yankees, the Dodgers, and the Giants. And the Dodgers moved out to LA, and the Giants moved out to San Francisco.
Root for the Dodgers. If they don't win, it's a shame.
Hockey-wise, you have the Islanders and the Rangers. I don't know how the Rangers are going to do this year, nor I don't know how the Islanders are going to do. But the Islanders represent more of Long Island. And they won 4 Stanley Cups in a row. I think the Montreal Canadiens also did that, like in the 70s too. But the Islanders were the most recent team to do it, and those are the only Stanley Cups they have won.
How many did they win in a row? You said?
They won 4 in a row.
How is that possible?
I don't know, but they had some sort of magic. They had that. His name just left me.
Je ne sais quoi. Je ne sais quoi.
Je ne sais quoi.
Je ne sais pas quoi.
But basketball, they have the Nets, which are a more recent team. They moved from New Jersey, and the Knicks. Soccer, you have New York Red Bull and New York FC, but who cares since it's soccer and it's not belong in this country. If you want to play soccer, do it in Latin America. Do it in Europe,
let me correct your statement. Let me correct your statement.
But keep it out of my country. I don't want to see soccer in my country.
Can I correct your statement? If you want to play soccer, literally go anywhere else. It's not go to any specific place. It's just us who doesn't play it. That does not mean we're in the right. That means that we're probably a little weird.
friends jumped off a bridge, would you do it too?
If all my friends lived after jumping off the bridge, yes. In fact, we're the person jumping off the bridge in this scenario. If every single other person is
They're
done.
jumping off. Playing soccer is jumping off the bridge.
How is playing soccer jumping off the bridge?
I'll play football. There's a reason for that. I don't want to get a concussion by having a dumb ball hit my head.
Yeah, I just want to get a concussion by running into somebody.
That's a reason to get a concussion.
Yeah, being hit in the head. Soccer, but in soccer, you don't get tackled by the full body mass of somebody.
Slide tackled.
Not that often. Also legal in that sport. You actively tackle people in football.
Yeah, that's why it's great. It's a great American sport. Play it. Don't play soccer. I've heard the argument that, it's more economical, more affordable, because in football you have to get those pads and gear. Hockey, same thing. We have to get skating lessons. Baseball, got the helmet, got to get, the bats, the cleats. So what,
Yeah, literally, it makes more economic sense. You literally need shorts and a t-shirt.
Go to cross country. Go to track and field.
Maybe cleats.
Don't play soccer. You're a traitor. Traitor to this country.
No, you're not.
Stand it. You're a traitor to this country if you play soccer.
We do not condone this. Whatever this podcast is called does not condone this behavior.
The Senate condones it. Congress condones it.
What are you talking? No, they don't. What? What? What are you talking about? If any sport is America's sport, it's baseball.
Football, depending on the numbers.
No, well, I'm saying that, like, if you were to look back at what sports were created, because
classically, America's pastime is baseball.
Yeah, no, but I'm saying like this. Football is both British and American. They come from the same area, and then football eventually in Britain turned into rugby. And yes, it was originally named football. Our football was originally the right football. Like, we called it football, not soccer. The British changed the name. Whole thing with that. Do not blame Americans for calling it football when theoretically they've been using the same name for the entire time. This isn't like a ridiculous thing. This is just how it used to be. It used to be called football, which makes sense because it's your foot and a ball, and then soccer, I've been saying this all wrong. It used to be called soccer, and then the British changed it to football because they thought that made more sense, and they didn't want to be like the stinky Americans. So don't blame Americans for calling it soccer. Anyways. No, but I'm saying from this perspective of, like, baseball is the one sport that is, like, distinctly American-made, if that makes sense. At least I feel. Although cricket is kind of similar. I don't know. I could be wrong.
Although it has some origins. But nonetheless, there used to be another hockey team in New York called the New York Americans. I think they were the first hockey team in New York in the NHL. And they folded in 1942 as the Brooklyn Americans because no one came to see them play, and no one liked them. But moving on to, or speaking of things no one likes, New Jersey.
That was a water bottle dropping. Don't mind that, people. Let's not talk about New Jersey. I think that's all it deserves. Because you want to know what we should do?
Atlantic City, it sucks. Ocean City, it sucks. Never been, but I know it sucks. Trenton, full of crime. Newark.
Okay, before we piss off more of the audience from New Jersey, I'm just going to say thank you all for listening to this lovely podcast. There's another water bottle drop.
Too, I imagine.
I just want to say thank you all for listening. Ignore my comment. My co-host does not mean anything he is saying here. Of course we love New Jersey. New Jersey is a great state. We all love New Jersey. Don't you love New Jersey?
I bet you 10 to 1. If you walk down the coastline of Atlantic City or Ocean City, you'd step on a hypodermic needle and die.
Bada. Bye, guys. You want to say goodbye, or are you going to say...
But in all honesty, there's certainly some, problems with New Jersey. In some cases, it's a bit of an overpass to New York, but southern New Jersey is actually rather pretty. I'll give them that.
Okay, there was. I was like, I thought you were going to say, but I thought your last thing, because you said but, and just like, in some cases, it's an overpass to New York. I'm like, wow, you ended on a strong turn there. You definitely showed that you actually love New Jersey. We just lost all New Jerseyans. New Jerseys? Jerseyans?
Well, no loss to me.
Oh.
One thing I wanted to mention about New York, not the city, the state itself, I mentioned Mormonism was founded there. But Joseph Smith, I think, received some golden tablets from some angel and
started Mormonism.
Started his religion, and they were kicked out of New York, and they went to Ohio, got kicked out of Ohio, went to Missouri, got kicked out of Missouri, then left to the modern-day Utah, went to a former country called Deseret, and then like a state, and none of that worked out. But I suppose I'll save the topic of Mormonism maybe for another time.
We'll save it when we get to Utah. We'll give them a whole history of it when we get to Utah.
But it started in New York, along with many other or some other religious movements, especially in the Second Great Awakening in the 1800s.
Yep. Just to warn you, we're just about at time.
Wait, we're what?
We're just about at time.
About time? How long are we in?
46 minutes in.
We're 46 minutes in.
Yep.
I saw we were at 19.
No, I have 46 minutes of audio with me. That's why I was like, and then what do you want to say to wrap up? And then we went, and I was like, no, I'm not going to cut you off about it.
I guess we can, I suppose we'll take care of Pennsylvania, It's maybe a longer episode, a lot of ranting.
Yeah, but I mean, if we want to do it, what have we covered in this episode? New Jersey, and we could do an actual Mid-Atlantic episode next time.
Well, should we cover Pennsylvania, because it's definitely not as extensive as New
York. Don't mind us, any listeners. We're definitely doing the right thing right here. This is all just the name of the game. Do you have a lot of notes for Pennsylvania?
I've been to Pennsylvania quite a bit, so I can talk about Pennsylvania.
Give me a second. Let me look at my guaranteed bona fide notes, and
while you're looking at that, I suppose I'll go into it. So, Pennsylvania, as I stated, originally founded as the. What was I going to say? It was founded by William Penn. He was a Quaker, and unlike violently ruling Native Americans, he merely bought the land from them. Doing this, for burping, greatly expanded from there. So the major cities include Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, and Harrisburg, Lancaster, Reading, Allentown, York. I'll start with Philadelphia. I've driven through it. All their sports fans are horrible. Eagles fans, I hated when they won the Super Bowl. I don't like the Eagles. I don't like the Flyers. I don't like the Phillies. I don't like the 76ers. Flyers fans, especially rowdy and violent. They're known for their violence. I was talking to this guy at a Capitals game. He said when he was 10, he was at the Wachovia Center, now the Wells Fargo Center. He said a drunk Flyers fan punched him in the face. So a 10-year-old boy got decked in the face by a Flyers fan. And the Eagles Stadium, they have a jail cell. It's called the City of Brotherly Love. Ben Franklin was there. Overall, not leaving a good impression on me. On the other side, Pennsylvania. I don't like the Penguins. I'm a Caps fan. We've had our time recently. Beat you guys in the playoffs. I've been there once before. It's a nice city. Has some neat Gothic buildings. And there's maybe one Gothic building that I liked. Some tower. City of Steel. A lot of steel industry back in the day. It was where Andrew Carnegie was based out of, who became one of the richest men in history. And Falling Waters, also in Pennsylvania, the famous Frank Lloyd Wright building, and it was owned by a rich Pittsburgh family, and they owned some department store. And it was said in those days, late 1800s, early 1900s, that you change your shirt twice in Pittsburgh, because by the end of midday, your shirt would be black from all the soot from industry. So you'd have to change that.
Have you mentioned Pittsburgh yet?
I just talked about Pittsburgh.
I totally, literally, I went like this. I heard you, I listened to you, and I was like, I have nothing to say about Pittsburgh, so I'm just going to leave it. and then all of a sudden you were just like, I was like, have you talked? That was one of those moments where you're like, I might be too tired for everything, just. Sorry,
Yeah.
no, but I do want to say one thing about Pennsylvania quickly, if I can. Do you mind?
Go ahead.
Lake Erie, it's awesome. I still love the Great Lakes are an interesting thing, and I would love to do an episode solely on them, and not just the Midwest in general, because the Great Lakes are a fascinating series of things, and Lake Erie being one of the larger ones of them, if I'm remembering correctly. Maybe the smallest. I don't actually know off the top of my head. But Pennsylvania has a weird little offshoot, mainly due to Lake Erie being so valuable in maritime shipping, that you can notice at the western edge of the state, which the shape is basically shaped like a square, has this little offshoot that pokes up into Lake Erie with a town appropriately named Erie. Yeah, it's a fun little place. I've seen pictures of it. It's very beautiful.
As I stated, the capital is Harrisburg. I've never been inside the city, but I did not get a good first impression. We were driving through the city to go to upstate New York for college graduation with a cousin, and the first thing we see going in is what seems to be an abandoned train, like a whole train, cars and all on it, on a bridge. And that was kind of like that's not good.
That's weird.
Hershey is nearby, as Hershey Park is, and all the chocolate's made and whatnot. I hope it's made there. Other places, I've been to Carlisle. It's all right. I think I've driven through Europe. Lancaster. Lancaster. I found it is a very odd mix of sort of low residential area and uppity hipster. Bad mix. I don't like it. Bad mix.
Bad mix.
Bad mix. I've been in Allentown, but I have been in the western area, and as I stated before, one of the planes was actually downed over western Pennsylvania that was supposed to... no one knows where it was going to go, but it was one of the...
People speculate that it was going to head to the White House. I believe there's some definitive evidence. I don't know what, but there's some evidence that it was heading to the White House.
But a lot of Pennsylvania is made up of the Appalachian Mountains. So anyone who's been out there, it's mountainous. It's very old mountain range dating back to the Ordovician period. Approximately, these mountains were formed 480 million years ago, I believe. So very old, and they're much smaller now than places like the Rockies, just due to massive wear. But there are sizable Amish communities within Pennsylvania, which I find very interesting. It's a very pretty state. A lot of it's heavily forested. There's some skiing resorts within Pennsylvania. Of course, there are other states like New York and places in upper New England, like Vermont, New Hampshire. But I've been to a ski resort, Pennsylvania Seven Springs, when for one trip with some friends before. Pennsylvania was rated with the worst accent in America.
I feel like that's objective. I feel like that's very subjective. I mean, not objective, subjective.
Of course, it's subjective. It's a nice state. It's a nice state.
I like it. I think Pennsylvania is chill.
It's a chill state. Famous people come out of Pennsylvania. Probably Fairmount. Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. No idea where Will Smith is actually from. He the show is from Philadelphia. I'll look up his bio. Will Smith, where are you from? West Philadelphia.
West Philadelphia. Wait.
Born in West Philadelphia.
West Philadelphia, born and raised?
Yep. West Philadelphia, born and raised. Pennsylvania's pretty. I've said that before, I'll say it again. I'd give it a visit. It's got some neat stuff. You can find the Amish there. The Amish are nice. I like the Amish. You like the Amish?
Yeah, I can dig them. I can respect them.
Yeah, Amish are good. Amish are nice. They shave their upper lip, or the mustache should be, as the Amish are immigrant communities. Well, not currently, but a lot of them immigrated from Germany back in the 1800s. And if you notice some of the old paintings and photos, a lot of the generals and whatnot had mustaches, big mustaches. And so, as a sign of pacifism, they'd shave their upper lip. And the Amish differ from a lot of religious communities in one way. The Shakers also did this, I mentioned in the last episode. Once you reach a certain age, you are allowed to leave if you want. And the Amish do have a very high retention rate. It's like 80-something%.
But there is 20% leaving is not. Sorry about that. That was a bit of a audio issue. Cut off there. Noticed it a little bit too late to actually properly stop it quickly. So there's a little bit of gap there, which might sound weird. But anyways, besides that, anything else you want to say?
I should probably mention a little bit of history since we usually want to shoot for around 45 minutes. We went over talking mostly about New York. Pennsylvania itself is a very neat state with a lot of rich history. One of the most fascinating places within the state is Gettysburg, where you had the northernmost but also largest Civil War battle. It's where Lincoln gave his famous Gettysburg Address. And anyone who's in that area, go see it. It's a great piece of American history. It really makes you think. Close to it is somewhat close to it is Hanover, named after Hanover, Germany. Places in, I think, more eastern Pennsylvania are home to the Pennsylvania Dutch, which are early American German communities. They're not actually Dutch, like from
Germany. No, Dutch from the Netherlands. I mean, Dutch from the Netherlands.
I'm not really sure where the name came from.
Oh, I know. It's very weird. It's very, very strange. So the German way of calling themselves Dutch is Deutsch speaking Deutsch in Deutschland, Deutschland. And Netherlands way of saying it is Nederlanders speak and Nederlanden don't Nederland. If I'm remembering some vague Dutch I know. That was probably completely wrong because I've not spoken it in a very long time. And so there's this weird thing where Germans would call themselves Dutch, and Americans thought the Dutch,
like Deutschlander.
Well, yeah, but it's I don't know where the name actually comes from, but I know that Americans used to think that because Americans call people from the Netherlands Dutch, and it comes from this. Because they thought they were Germans. Because the Netherlands, the Dutch language and the German language. Because, I know what it is. Sorry, I remember it. Deutsch speaking the Deutsch in Deutschland actually translates to German speak German in Germany. And Nederlander translates to Dutch in English. So it's just a weird scenario where it's like, it sounds like the Germans would like to be called Dutch, but they aren't. They would like to be called... what's it called? German. Their way of saying it is just Deutsch speaking the Deutsch in Deutschland is German speak German in Germany, if that makes sense. Yeah, that's it. Roughly, it kind of works. If I remember, it's been a while since I remember what it was, but it's roughly along those lines.
So those are the things, I suppose, sort of rushed over Pennsylvania compared to what else, because, again, I said we went over and sort of wanted to cram it in since it was planned. Next time, I want to cover Maryland, Delaware, and Virginia. And why such a smaller area? Just because I am from Northern Virginia. I live close to D.C., and so I know that area quite well. I go into Maryland quite a bit, too. I have family down in the Richmond area, so I feel like a rather okay sense of Virginia and that whole area. Will miles out from California, so I'm sure that felt like probably its own episode. Just
Yeah.
how big it is.
California. I'm thinking California and Texas. I'm thinking California and Texas would give their own episodes.
Yeah, they're just too big, and I'm thinking maybe pairing Hawaii with Alaska.
Yeah, we could do that. Although they're very different from each other.
They're sort of on the edge.
They are. Okay, but I just want to thank everyone for listening. Yeah. Thank you for listening. Bye.
See you next time.